Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the Islamic SHAHADA channel. China is widely recognized as a nation dominated by the Han ethnic majority, a country renowned for its ancient civilization, rapid economic growth, and global influence. Yet, hidden beneath the surface of this vast nation lies a rich and diverse Muslim world that remains largely unknown to the international public. Estimates suggest that the Muslim population in China ranges between 20 to 30 million, encompassing a mosaic of ethnicities, cultures, and religious traditions. These communities are predominantly concentrated in the northwestern provinces, including Xinjiang, Ningxia, Gansu, Qinghai, and parts of Henan, while significant Muslim populations also reside in major urban centers such as Beijing, Shanghai, and Xi'an. Despite representing a minority in a predominantly Han society, Muslims in China have preserved their faith, identity, and cultural heritage for centuries. This documentary aims to shed light on the complex and often underreported realities of Chinese Muslims, exploring how Islam continues to grow and adapt amid social pressures, political oversight, and evolving cultural landscapes. From the bustling streets of urban centers to the remote villages of Xinjiang and Qinghai, the persistence of Islam in China is a testament to the resilience and spiritual devotion of its followers. The story of Islam in China is not merely one of numbers or demographics. It is a narrative interwoven with history, politics, identity, and faith. It delves into the lived experiences of the Uyghur, Hui, and smaller Muslim communities, uncovering the challenges they face, the strategies they employ to sustain their traditions, and the remarkable ways in which Islam continues to shape their daily lives. In an era marked by globalization, religious scrutiny, and socio-political tension, understanding this hidden Muslim world is crucial for appreciating the broader dynamics of faith, identity, and resilience in contemporary China. The story of Islam in China stretches back over 13 centuries, beginning in the 7th century during the Tang Dynasty, a period when China was a central hub of commerce, culture, and diplomacy along the Silk Road. Arab and Persian merchants were among the earliest to introduce Islam to the Chinese Empire, not through conquest, but primarily via trade and cultural exchange. These merchants, traveling along the vast network of Silk Road routes that connected Central Asia to the Middle Kingdom, established small but enduring Muslim communities in port cities and oasis towns. Their presence laid the foundation for a faith that would gradually integrate with the local culture while retaining its distinctive religious identity. During the Yuan dynasty, 1271 to 1368, established by the Mongol Empire, Muslims in China gained unprecedented opportunities for political and social engagement. Many served as administrators, scholars, and military officers, facilitating a closer relationship between the state and Islamic communities. The Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644, further solidified the integration of Islam into Chinese society. While maintaining a firm Confucian governance system, the Ming emperors allowed Muslim communities to flourish, encouraging the construction of mosques and promoting the study of Islamic law alongside Chinese classical education. The Qing dynasty, 1644 to 1912, continued this complex dynamic, with periods of tolerance interspersed with instances of tension and restriction, particularly in regions where ethnic and religious identities were closely tied to political control. Two Muslim ethnic groups have been especially significant in shaping the cultural and religious landscape of China: the Hui and the Uyghur. The Hui, predominantly descendants of Arab and Persian merchants who intermarried with Han Chinese, developed a unique cultural synthesis. They contributed to Chinese architecture, evident in the harmonious blending of traditional Chinese styles with Islamic motifs in mosques and public buildings. The Hui also preserved Islamic scholarship, combining religious study with local linguistic and educational practices. The Uyghur, concentrated in Xinjiang, maintained a distinctive Turkic identity, reflected in their language, customs, and educational institutions. Their cultural contributions include intricate Islamic artistry, vibrant festival traditions, and enduring social customs surrounding marriage, family, and communal life. Through centuries of interaction with successive dynasties, trade networks, and local cultures, Islam in China evolved into a deeply rooted and multifaceted tradition. Its history is not merely a record of foreign influence, but a testament to the resilience and adaptability of Muslim communities who, while navigating political shifts and social change, have sustained their faith, identity, and cultural heritage. The narrative of Chinese Islam is therefore a story of integration, preservation, and transformation, a rich tapestry that continues to unfold in the modern era. China's Muslim population is remarkably diverse, encompassing multiple ethnic groups that differ in language, culture, geography, and historical experiences. While the Uyghur and Hui constitute the largest Muslim communities, numerous smaller ethnic groups also preserve Islamic faith and traditions across different regions of the country. Understanding these communities is essential for appreciating the multifaceted nature of Islam in China. The Uyghur are a Turkic-speaking Sunni Muslim population concentrated mainly in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in northwest China. Historically, the Uyghur have inhabited the oases and valleys along the Silk Road, creating a vibrant culture shaped by centuries of trade, scholarship, and artistic expression. Islam is deeply embedded in Uyghur life, influencing family structure, social norms, festivals, and communal rituals. Yet, in contemporary times, the Uyghur face intense political and social surveillance. Strict regulations on religious practice, education, dress codes, and public gatherings have created significant challenges for preserving their cultural and religious identity. Despite these pressures, the Uyghur continue to maintain their faith through family-based religious instruction, community observances, and the oral transmission of traditions, illustrating a remarkable resilience in the face of adversity. The Hui, by contrast, are ethnically closer to the Han majority and are widely dispersed throughout China, including Ningxia, Gansu, Qinghai, Henan, and urban centers like Beijing and Xi'an. Many Hui trace their ancestry to Arab and Persian traders who settled in China during the Tang and Song dynasties, intermarrying with local Han populations. This has resulted in a community that integrates seamlessly into broader Chinese society while maintaining Islamic identity through religious practice, dietary laws, and cultural rituals. Hui Muslims often engage in trade, business, and professional occupations, forming networks of economic and social influence. Their mosques typically feature a distinctive architectural style that merges traditional Chinese motifs with Islamic elements, symbolizing the harmonious integration of faith and local culture. In addition to the Uyghur and Hui, China hosts several minority Muslim groups, each with distinct cultural and religious characteristics. The Kazakh population, concentrated in northern Xinjiang, are Sunni Muslims with a pastoralist heritage, traditionally living in nomadic or semi-nomadic communities that rely on livestock herding. The Kyrgyz, residing in western Xinjiang near the Kyrgyzstan border, are also Sunni and maintain strong nomadic traditions, with cultural practices that reflect their Central Asian origins. The Tajik Muslims of southern Xinjiang, predominantly followers of Sunni Ismailiyya, inhabit the high-altitude Pamir Mountains, preserving unique languages, rituals, and social structures adapted to mountainous life. Further east, in Gansu and Qinghai provinces, the Dongxiang are Sunni Muslims who speak the Dongxiang language, a Mongolic-derived tongue. Despite being numerically smaller, the Dongxiang preserve Islamic practices through community institutions and cultural ceremonies. The Baoan, located in Ningxia and Gansu, form a distinct ethnic group with unique social and religious customs, while the Salar, primarily in Qinghai and Gansu, speak a Turkic-derived Salar language, and maintain Sunni Islamic traditions that reflect both Central Asian influence and localized adaptation. Each of these groups demonstrates the adaptability and diversity of Islam within China. Their religious practices are intertwined with local customs, languages, and regional histories, creating a complex mosaic of Muslim life. From pastoralist Kazakhs to urban Hui traders, from mountainous Tajiks to small Dongxiang communities, Chinese Muslims have developed varied strategies to sustain their faith, whether through education, architecture, festivals, or familial traditions. Despite differing pressures, social integration, and geographic circumstances, all these communities share a commitment to preserving their religious identity, showcasing the resilience and vitality of Islam across China. By examining these groups collectively, one gains insight into the multi-layered nature of Chinese Islam. It is not a monolithic religion, but a dynamic network of communities, each balancing tradition, adaptation, and survival in a rapidly changing society. Understanding these ethnic and cultural distinctions is essential for appreciating the complexity, historical depth, and contemporary relevance of Islam in China today. Xinjiang, the vast northwestern region of China, serves as the heartland of the Uyghur Muslims, a Turkic-speaking Sunni community whose cultural and religious identity has been shaped over centuries along the historic Silk Road. The region's strategic location, linking Central Asia to the Chinese interior, allowed Uyghur society to flourish as a crossroads of trade, scholarship, and cultural exchange. Today, Xinjiang remains the epicenter of Uyghur life, encompassing bustling urban centers, remote oases, and mountainous valleys, where Islam continues to play a central role in daily life, social norms, and community cohesion. In recent decades, the Uyghur have faced unprecedented political pressures that have profoundly affected their religious and cultural practices. Reports from human rights organizations, international media, and academic studies indicate the widespread implementation of surveillance systems, biometric tracking, and social monitoring that permeate daily life. State policies have included the closure or repurposing of mosques, restrictions on religious attire such as the hijab, and strict controls over Islamic education, including Quranic study. Perhaps most controversially, the Chinese government has established what it calls re-education centers, ostensibly for vocational training, but which international observers describe as sites aimed at eroding religious identity, language, and cultural traditions. Uyghur individuals and families are reportedly detained for participating in religious study, attending mosque services, or adhering to traditional customs, creating an environment where practicing Islam openly can carry severe consequences. Despite these challenges, the Uyghur population demonstrates notable resilience. Demographic studies and field reports indicate that even under extensive surveillance, Uyghur communities continue to observe religious rituals privately, teach their children Islamic traditions at home, and maintain communal and family practices that preserve cultural identity. Oral transmission of language, stories, religious knowledge, and culinary customs enables the continuity of both faith and culture. Islamic festivals, while sometimes restricted publicly, are celebrated within families and close-knit communities, providing a sense of spiritual and social cohesion amid political pressures. The Uyghur issue has garnered substantial global attention, highlighting concerns over human rights, religious freedom, and cultural preservation. International debates have focused on the ethical and legal implications of China's policies in Xinjiang, leading to diplomatic scrutiny and calls for accountability from governments, NGOs, and the United Nations. While media coverage often emphasizes political and humanitarian aspects, the day-to-day persistence of Uyghur religious and cultural life, how families, elders, and community leaders sustain faith practices, is less widely reported, yet remains a testament to the community's resilience. The Uyghur experience exemplifies the complex interplay between religion, ethnicity, and state power in contemporary China. Faith, for the Uyghur, is not merely a spiritual practice, it is an integral part of identity, community structure, and cultural heritage. The persistence of Islamic practice under extreme scrutiny reflects a broader pattern of endurance observed in minority communities worldwide, where religious and cultural identity persists despite social, political, and economic pressures. This narrative illustrates that, even in highly regulated and monitored societies, human devotion, cultural memory, and spiritual commitment can endure, adapting subtly to ensure survival across generations. Unlike the Uyghur, whose identity is closely tied to their Turkic language and distinct cultural heritage, the Hui Muslims represent a unique model of religious integration within the broader Han-dominated Chinese society. Predominantly found in Ningxia, Gansu, Qinghai, Henan, and major urban centers such as Beijing and Xi'an, the Hui are ethnically similar to the Han, yet maintain Islamic faith through distinct religious practices, dietary laws, and community traditions. Over centuries, the Hui have developed a harmonious coexistence with the surrounding Han majority, blending aspects of Chinese culture with their Islamic identity, creating a community that is both distinctly Muslim and inherently Chinese. Economically and socially, the Hui have historically occupied influential positions as merchants, professionals, and entrepreneurs. Their role in trade dates back to the Silk Road, where Hui ancestors, often Arab and Persian traders who intermarried with local Han populations, played pivotal roles in commerce and the dissemination of culture. Today, Hui communities continue to thrive in business, finance, and education, often acting as intermediaries between different ethnic and cultural groups. This economic integration has not only bolstered their social status, but also facilitated the maintenance of religious and cultural institutions, including mosques, Islamic schools, and cultural centers, which serve as focal points for communal life. The population of Hui Muslims has remained stable and, in some regions, continues to grow, reflecting both natural demographic trends and religious conversions among Han Chinese. While data on conversion rates is limited due to sensitivities surrounding religious identity in China, anecdotal evidence suggests that Islam is increasingly attracting interest among Han individuals seeking spiritual depth, ethical guidance, or a sense of community. This phenomenon, though modest in scale, highlights the dynamic and evolving nature of Islam in China, demonstrating that faith is not confined to ethnic boundaries, but is capable of transcultural appeal. Culturally, the Hui have contributed significantly to China's religious and architectural heritage. Mosques in Hui-majority regions often feature a unique synthesis of traditional Chinese architecture and Islamic artistic motifs, symbolizing the blending of cultural identities. Islamic festivals, such as Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, are celebrated with both religious solemnity and local customs, reinforcing communal bonds and intergenerational transmission of faith. Hui cuisine, dietary practices, and educational initiatives further exemplify the integration of Islam into everyday life, providing a living example of how religion can adapt while retaining its core spiritual principles. The Hui experience demonstrates a contrasting trajectory to that of the Uyghur. While both communities preserve Islamic faith, the Hui model emphasizes integration, social mobility, and cultural synthesis. This interplay between religious identity and societal adaptation has allowed the Hui to maintain their Islamic traditions without significant confrontation with state policies or the broader cultural environment. Their continued vitality reflects not only demographic growth, but also a resilient strategy for sustaining faith, blending spiritual commitment with economic and social engagement. Ultimately, the story of the Hui Muslims illustrates the potential for Islam to coexist and thrive within the complex tapestry of modern China. It is a narrative of adaptation, resilience, and cultural synthesis, showing how a minority religious community can maintain its identity while engaging productively with a dominant society. The Hui stand as a testament to the diverse manifestations of Islam in China, highlighting the multifaceted ways in which faith, culture, and community intersect. In contemporary China, Islam faces a complex landscape shaped by government regulation, social perceptions, and global geopolitics. While China officially recognizes Islam as one of its 5 sanctioned religions, alongside Buddhism, Taoism, Catholicism, and Protestantism, in practice, Muslim communities, especially the Uyghur and to a lesser extent the Hui and other groups, encounter a series of political challenges and rising social stigma. This environment has fostered what many observers describe as a climate of Islamophobia, where Islamic identity is increasingly framed as a security risk or as incompatible with national stability. Government control is perhaps the most defining factor in the religious lives of Muslims in China today. The state imposes strict oversight over mosques, Islamic education, and religious literature, requiring that all religious institutions be registered under state-sanctioned organizations such as the Islamic Association of China. Imams must undergo government training, Friday sermons are often subject to approval, and mosque construction or renovations must align with official guidelines that increasingly emphasize Sinicization, a process by which Islamic architecture and teaching are reshaped to reflect Chinese cultural and political ideals. In recent years, thousands of mosques, especially in Xinjiang and Ningxia, have reportedly been demolished, closed, or repurposed, profoundly altering the religious landscape. Islamic education, traditionally conducted through madrasas and family instruction, is also heavily restricted. Independent Quranic schools have been curtailed, religious study for children under 18 is prohibited, and the circulation of religious texts, including Qurans imported from abroad, is tightly monitored. Literature that promotes Islamic scholarship or transnational connections is frequently censored, with preference given to state-approved versions that align with political narratives. These measures are presented by authorities as necessary for combating extremism, but critics argue they undermine the preservation of authentic religious knowledge and spiritual continuity. Beyond state control, Muslims in China also face local forms of Islamophobia, manifested through stereotypes, prejudice, and social discrimination. Uyghur communities in particular are often associated in state media with separatism or terrorism, fueling suspicion and mistrust among the broader population. Hui Muslims, though generally more integrated, have also experienced stigmatization in urban areas, where halal restaurants or Islamic practices are sometimes depicted as foreign or incompatible with mainstream Chinese values. This climate of suspicion fosters a social environment where Islamic symbols, such as the hijab, prayer caps, or halal signs, can become targets of regulation or social critique. At a deeper level, Islam in China has become a symbol of contested identity, often positioned as a challenge to state narratives of national unity and stability. For many Uyghur and Hui Muslims, religious practice is inseparable from cultural heritage, language, and community cohesion. Yet, in the eyes of the state, these strong identities can be interpreted as potential threats to assimilation and political control. As a result, Islam is often framed less as a faith tradition and more as a political question, subject to surveillance, regulation, and policy intervention. These dynamics have profound international implications. Reports of restrictions on Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang have drawn global condemnation, with human rights organizations, Western governments, and international media highlighting issues of mass detentions, cultural suppression, and religious repression. China, in response, defends its policies as measures to combat extremism and promote social harmony, framing criticism as politically motivated. This global discourse has elevated the plight of Chinese Muslims onto the world stage, making Islam in China not only a domestic matter, but also a subject of international diplomacy, trade negotiations, and geopolitical debate. Despite these challenges, Muslim communities in China continue to adapt. Some embrace quiet resilience, practicing faith privately and teaching children at home. Others pursue accommodation, aligning religious life with state expectations while finding subtle ways to preserve tradition. Still others seek to internationalize their plight, reaching out to global audiences to raise awareness. These varied strategies reflect the diverse responses of Muslims navigating an environment where religion, politics, and identity are inseparably intertwined. The story of Islamophobia and political challenges in China reveals the fragile balance between religious freedom and state control, between cultural preservation and political conformity. It underscores the reality that Islam in China is not merely a spiritual matter, but also a contested space where questions of identity, loyalty, and national security converge. This ongoing struggle will shape not only the future of Muslim communities in China, but also the broader discourse on religion, human rights, and governance in the 21st century. While political restrictions and Islamophobia in China often dominate international headlines, a quieter but equally significant phenomenon has been unfolding across the country: the growth of Islam through personal conversion and spiritual revival. Against a backdrop of state regulation and social pressure, many individuals, both from traditional Muslim backgrounds and from the majority Han community, are turning toward Islam in search of spiritual meaning, ethical guidance, and a sense of community that transcends political boundaries. Among China's Hui Muslims, who are ethnically distinct yet culturally close to the Han majority, there has been a renewed interest in rediscovering Islamic traditions that had been eroded during decades of secularization. Young Hui, especially those born after the Cultural Revolution, often describe a conscious return to Islam as part of reclaiming their heritage. This revival is not merely cultural. It involves a deliberate embrace of religious practice, daily prayers, Quranic study, and halal observance that connects them to a global faith community while reinforcing their identity within China. Perhaps even more striking is the growing number of Han Chinese converts to Islam. Historically, Islam in China was associated with minority groups such as the Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and Hui. Today, however, Islam's universal message of justice, discipline, and moral clarity is resonating with Han intellectuals, students, and urban professionals who find in Islam an alternative to materialism and the moral vacuum often felt in rapidly modernizing Chinese society. Conversion to Islam in China is not a mass movement, but it is meaningful. Each story represents a deeply personal spiritual journey that defies political narratives portraying Islam as foreign or threatening. Individual stories highlight the resilience of faith in difficult times. Some Han converts describe first encountering Islam through friendships with Hui classmates or business partners, where exposure to Islamic ethics in daily life sparked curiosity. Others discover Islam through academic study of history, philosophy, or comparative religion. In rare but growing cases, digital platforms, despite heavy censorship, have become windows into the wider Muslim world. Through carefully navigated VPNs, private chat groups, or localized platforms, seekers encounter Quranic teachings, Islamic lectures, and testimonies of Muslims around the globe. These experiences, even under tight surveillance, allow personal encounters with Islam that official institutions cannot fully suppress. This phenomenon reflects a broader spiritual revival in China. In an age of rapid industrialization, urban alienation, and environmental crises, many Chinese citizens are searching for meaning beyond economic success. Islam, with its emphasis on discipline, charity, and the pursuit of justice, offers a framework for spiritual fulfillment and moral stability. For converts, adopting Islam is not merely a religious shift but a comprehensive reorientation of life, affecting diet, dress, family rituals, and ethical priorities. It often involves challenges, including family resistance, workplace discrimination, and constant scrutiny from local authorities. Yet, for many, the personal conviction outweighs the risks. Technology plays a paradoxical role in this revival. On one hand, the Chinese government maintains strict control over religious content online, banning foreign Islamic websites and monitoring keywords related to religion. On the other hand, digital tools provide unprecedented access to global religious discourse. Social media platforms such as WeChat and Douyin, Chinese TikTok, have become subtle arenas for religious expression, where short videos, coded language, and encrypted groups circulate Islamic knowledge under the radar of censorship. Even when accounts are deleted, networks reform and information spreads in new forms, demonstrating the adaptability of faith communities in digital spaces. International connections also fuel this revival. Chinese students studying abroad, whether in Muslim-majority countries like Malaysia and Egypt or in Western nations, often encounter Islam in environments free from domestic political control. Upon returning, they bring with them renewed commitment, books, and sometimes even new family ties that contribute to the quiet expansion of Islam inside China. Likewise, business connections along the Belt and Road Initiative expose Chinese entrepreneurs to Muslim partners across Central Asia, the Middle East, and Africa, facilitating cross-cultural encounters where Islam becomes not only a religion, but also a bridge for trust and cooperation. This conversion and revival trend, though modest in scale, carries profound significance. It demonstrates that Islam in China is not merely surviving under political pressure, but actively attracting new adherents who see in it a source of authenticity and strength. It challenges the narrative that religion in China must conform to state ideology, showing instead that personal conviction can transcend imposed boundaries. More importantly, it highlights the global and timeless appeal of Islam, its ability to resonate with hearts and minds across cultures, even in environments of constraint. The revival of Islam among Hui communities, the conversion of Han Chinese, and the creative use of digital tools point toward a future in which Islam in China will continue to evolve in unexpected ways. Despite restrictions, the search for spiritual truth remains a powerful force. The stories of individual converts remind us that faith cannot be contained entirely by policy or propaganda. It flows through personal encounters, lived experiences, and the quiet resilience of those who find in Islam not only a religion, but a path to meaning and dignity. The story of Islam in China is not only about politics, restrictions, or survival under pressure. It is equally about a rich and enduring cultural heritage that has shaped Chinese society for centuries. From architecture to cuisine, from education to trade, Muslim communities have left an indelible mark on the cultural and social fabric of China. These contributions demonstrate that Islam is not a foreign implant, but an integral part of the Chinese historical experience. One of the most visible symbols of this heritage is Islamic architecture in China, especially its mosques. Unlike the domes and minarets common in the Middle East, many Chinese mosques blend Islamic functions with traditional Chinese forms. The Great Mosque of Xi'an, one of the oldest and most famous, resembles a Chinese temple with curved roofs, wooden beams, and courtyards, yet serves as a center for Muslim worship and learning. Similarly, the mosques in Ningxia, Gansu, and Yunnan reflect this architectural synthesis, showing how Islamic religious life was harmonized with Chinese aesthetics. In Xinjiang, however, mosques historically bore Central Asian influences, with high minarets and turquoise tiles echoing the Silk Road connections. Together, these buildings stand as cultural landmarks, embodying both spiritual devotion and artistic dialogue between civilizations. Beyond architecture, Chinese Islamic culture thrives in daily life. Food is perhaps the most widespread contribution. Hui Muslims, who live across the country, are especially known for their halal cuisine, which combines Chinese culinary techniques with Islamic dietary principles. Dishes such as lanzhou lamian, hand-pulled noodles, yangru paomo, mutton and bread soup, and roasted lamb skewers have become iconic parts of Chinese street food culture, enjoyed not only by Muslims but by millions of Chinese people from all backgrounds. Halal restaurants, often marked with green signs or Arabic calligraphy, are found in every major city, serving as bridges of interaction between Muslims and non-Muslims. Clothing and festivals also reflect the deep integration of Islam into Chinese society. During Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, Muslim communities across China gather for prayer, celebration, and communal meals, often with distinct regional traditions. In Xinjiang, the Uyghurs celebrate with music, dance, and rich Central Asian dishes, while in Ningxia and Gansu, the Hui emphasize communal prayers and family gatherings. Traditional Muslim attire, such as the white skull cap for men and modest dresses for women, has become a cultural marker that signals identity and belonging, even as it blends with local Chinese styles. These practices not only maintain religious identity but also enrich China's diverse cultural mosaic. Economically, Muslims in China have long played a crucial role in interregional trade and business. Historically, Muslim merchants were central to the Silk Road, connecting China with Central Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. Today, many Hui Muslims continue this tradition by running successful businesses in transportation, wholesale trade, halal food production, and hospitality. Their networks often stretch across provinces and even internationally, particularly in trade with Muslim-majority countries. This economic vitality reinforces the role of Muslim communities as both contributors to China's domestic growth and as bridges in global commerce. Education has been another cornerstone of Muslim contributions. Traditional madrasas and mosque schools have operated for centuries, teaching Quran, Arabic, and Islamic sciences alongside Chinese classics. In modern times, institutions such as the China Islamic Institute in Beijing and universities in Ningxia and Xinjiang continue to educate imams, scholars, and professionals who serve both their religious communities and the wider society. Despite political restrictions on religious education, informal networks of learning, study circles, online discussions, and community classes remain active, ensuring the continuity of Islamic knowledge for new generations. Taken together, these cultural and social contributions highlight a profound truth. Islam in China is not simply a minority identity under pressure. It is also a living, creative force that has enriched the nation for more than 1,000 years. From the courtyards of ancient mosques to the kitchens of bustling halal restaurants, from the prayers of Eid to the movement of goods across provinces, Chinese Muslims embody a heritage that is both deeply rooted in tradition and dynamically engaged with the modern world. As China continues to evolve in the 21st century, the legacy of Chinese Islamic culture remains a reminder that diversity and integration can coexist. The mosques, festivals, food, and education of China's Muslims testify to the resilience of faith and the enduring contributions of Islam to one of the world's oldest civilizations. While the struggles of the Uighurs in Xinjiang or the visible presence of the Hui and Ningxia often dominate headlines, there exists another layer to the story of Islam in China, one that is rarely told, hidden in the folds of history, everyday life, and quiet resilience. These are the secret stories and lesser-known facts about Muslim communities in China, narratives that reveal how faith survives, adapts, and quietly flourishes even under the shadow of strict political oversight. One of the most fascinating elements is the presence of underground networks of Islamic education. Despite restrictions on religious schooling, many families and communities continue to teach the Quran, Arabic, and Islamic jurisprudence in private homes. These networks are discreet, often operating in small groups led by local imams or respected elders. In some areas, women play an especially important role in transmitting Islamic knowledge to children, a tradition that dates back centuries when formal religious institutions were heavily regulated. Such hidden education ensures that even in environments of censorship, Islamic identity is preserved and passed on to new generations. Another lesser-known fact is the significant Muslim presence in China's largest cities. Beyond the rural heartlands of Ningxia and Xinjiang, Muslims have established thriving communities in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Xi'an. In these cities, Muslim entrepreneurs run halal restaurants, butcher shops, and trade networks, serving not only fellow Muslims, but the broader public. Urban mosques, such as the Ningxia Mosque in Beijing, dating back over 1,000 years, stand as living proof of Islam's enduring place in Chinese society. For many urban Muslims, daily life involves a delicate balance, maintaining their religious identity while navigating the pressures of assimilation in a modern Han-majority environment. Equally compelling are the hidden spiritual traditions practiced by Muslim communities across China. In some regions, Sufi brotherhoods maintain rituals of dhikr, remembrance of God, held quietly in private gatherings rather than public mosques. These practices, often carried out under the radar, provide spiritual nourishment and a sense of community in times of difficulty. Among Hui Muslims, the tradition of women-led mosques, where female imams lead prayers and educational activities for women, is a unique phenomenon almost unknown outside China. This long-standing practice highlights the adaptive and localized nature of Chinese Islam, and it continues to thrive even amid tightening regulations. The survival of these traditions tells a broader story of resilience. Despite political campaigns, cultural pressures, and periods of suppression, Muslim communities have found creative ways to protect their faith. Oral traditions, coded symbols, and everyday practices, such as maintaining halal diets or observing Islamic festivals in private, become acts of resistance and identity. These hidden Muslims in China may not always be visible to the outside world, but their quiet determination ensures that Islam remains alive across the nation. Inspirational stories abound. Families who risked punishment to continue teaching their children the Quran, communities who rebuilt mosques brick by brick after periods of destruction, individuals who converted to Islam in search of spiritual truth, despite knowing the personal risks. These are not isolated tales, but part of a broader mosaic of endurance and devotion. They illustrate how faith, even when restricted, has the power to survive and inspire. Ultimately, the lesser-known side of Islam in China reminds us that faith is not always practiced in grand gestures or visible structures. Sometimes it lives in whispers, in private homes, in the quiet recitation of Quran verses at night, or in the secret gatherings of believers who refuse to let their identity disappear. These hidden dimensions reveal the human spirit's capacity to preserve meaning, belonging, and hope, even under the harshest of circumstances. The future of Islam in China is a question that combines history, demography, politics, and human resilience. While Muslims remain a minority within the world's most populous nation, their presence, estimated between 20 to 30 million today, is too significant to ignore. Projections suggest that, despite pressures and restrictions, the Muslim population in China is likely to continue growing in the coming decades. This growth will be shaped by natural population increases, intermarriage, and, in some cases, quiet conversions to Islam among Han Chinese seeking spiritual alternatives in an increasingly materialistic society. Demographically, provinces such as Xinjiang, Ningxia, Gansu, Qinghai, and Hainan will remain key centers of Muslim life, but urban migration is steadily transforming the map. Increasing numbers of Hui and Uyghur Muslims are moving into China's major cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, where they establish businesses, halal restaurants, and professional networks. This urbanization process not only strengthens the visibility of Muslims in mainstream Chinese society, but also creates new opportunities for interfaith interaction, education, and cultural exchange. The future of Islam in China, therefore, may become more urban and interconnected, moving beyond its traditional rural strongholds. Yet the path ahead is far from simple. The most pressing challenge is the role of government policy. In recent decades, China's leadership has tightened control over religious practices under the framework of Sinicization of religion, which seeks to align all faiths with socialist values and national identity. For Muslims, this has translated into stricter regulations on mosques, Islamic schools, religious literature, and public expressions of faith. In Xinjiang, these policies are especially severe, with global attention focused on re-education camps and allegations of human rights abuses. While such measures pose real threats to the preservation of Islamic identity, they have also sparked international solidarity and advocacy, making Islam in China a matter of global concern. Social changes also pose both opportunities and challenges. As China modernizes, younger generations of Muslims face the dilemma of balancing religious tradition with the demands of contemporary life. For many Hui Muslims, this means negotiating identities that are both fully Chinese and fully Muslim, while finding ways to thrive in education, business, and technology sectors. Meanwhile, Uyghur Muslims struggle to maintain cultural and linguistic traditions under systemic pressure. The future of Islam in China will depend on how effectively these communities can adapt while preserving their distinct religious and cultural heritage. Despite these challenges, there are grounds for hope and resilience. Across the nation, Muslims have shown remarkable creativity in sustaining their identity through family education, cultural festivals, halal commerce, and even discreet use of digital platforms to connect with global Islamic knowledge. The increasing presence of Chinese Muslims in international trade, education abroad, and global diplomacy also ensures that their voices will continue to resonate beyond national borders. Moreover, global awareness of the plight of Chinese Muslims has grown, with advocacy from governments, NGOs, and civil society placing pressure on Beijing to uphold religious freedoms. The future of Islam in China may not be without restrictions, but history has shown that Islam has survived dynastic change, political upheaval, and waves of repression for more than 1,000 years. The continuity of mosques, the persistence of Islamic traditions, and the steady growth of the Muslim population all testify to a faith that endures. Looking ahead, the question is not whether Islam will survive in China. It will, but how it will adapt to the realities of modern Chinese society and global scrutiny. In the decades to come, Islam in China will remain a powerful symbol of resilience under pressure, of cultural diversity in a nation often seen as monolithic, and of the enduring human desire for faith and meaning. Whether through demographic growth, cultural preservation, or the hope for greater religious freedom, the future of Islam in China reflects both challenges and possibilities, a story still unfolding before the eyes of the world. As this journey across China's Muslim landscape draws to a close, one truth emerges with clarity. Islam in China is far more than a demographic statistic or a marginalized minority. It is a resilient community with deep historical roots, evolving identities, and a faith that continues to endure despite shifting political and social landscapes. From the arrival of Islam through the Silk Road in the 7th century to the vibrant presence of Hui and Uyghur communities today, Islam in China has been both a witness to and a participant in the country's long civilizational journey. This endurance is not without challenges. Across centuries, Muslims in China have faced cycles of acceptance and suppression, tolerance and regulation. The present era brings new trials, strict government oversight, Islamophobia in certain quarters, and the immense pressures of modernization and globalization. Yet, just as in the past, Muslim communities continue to adapt, creating new ways of preserving their identity while engaging with wider Chinese society. Whether in the mosques of Xi'an that blend Confucian aesthetics with Islamic spirituality, in the halal restaurants of Beijing and Shanghai that serve both Muslims and non-Muslims, or in the quiet Quranic lessons passed from parent to child, the story of Islam in China is one of persistence and creativity. Looking forward, the future of Islam in China will likely remain complex, a mixture of restrictions and resilience, challenges and opportunities. Demographic growth, urban migration, and quiet conversions suggest that Islam will not only survive but continue to evolve. At the same time, government policy and global scrutiny will shape how visible or invisible these communities can afford to be. For the millions of Chinese Muslims, the task remains the same as it has been for centuries: to hold fast to faith while navigating a nation in constant transformation. The broader reflection is clear: Islam in China is not an isolated phenomenon, but part of the global narrative of religious diversity, cultural resilience, and the search for spiritual meaning in a modern world. Its survival, often quiet, sometimes hidden, but always determined, offers lessons on the strength of human identity under pressure. As one reflects on this journey, a single thought lingers. In the land of ancient dynasties and modern surveillance, the spirit of Islam endures, quietly, resiliently, and profoundly. Thanks for watching until the end. I hope it was useful. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.